Finally, it looks like everything's fixed. Sorry for the delay with the start, folks. Just back again for yet another Moonshire Monday. A little hectic at first because I opened up OBS and the stream chat display up in the corner, like above my head, wasn't showing up properly, and I had to fix that, and it was really annoying. Also, is OBS capturing my mouse? Does it normally capture the mouse? I think it does. Hi, Wolf. Hi, welcome in. A few people already waiting in the waiting room before stream. Mariah, Weltrill, Tez, Fraser, thank you so much for being here. Still trying to get a little situated since I was a little late, but still, I'm happy that I haven't missed a single Moonshire Monday yet. It's been quite a while. I'm happy with the streak. So today, the stream title is Making Monsters Live, or actually, is it Making Monsters Live? I think it's a double meaning, but I've been working on some new monster types. I think I showed it a little bit in the last stream, but before I was using this like enemy class, but I've been working on this new mob class, so I have a different type of enemy, and this is one of them. It's visually not any different from the old ones, but all the code that runs it is so much cleaner. It's so much better. I'm really, really happy with how everything's turning out with this. The Plush King has arrived. That's a cool name. So regarding this, it's using all of this code in this mob file. And again, like, it is funny how basically the same this is, because if I go over here, these enemies, again, behave basically the same as when I spawn a mob. Yeah, this one here is different. But there is one thing. There's a few things that I can fix or change about this. So, Wolf was testing this last night. Bilal, hi, welcome in. JMC, XIV. Wolf was testing this last night, and she mentioned that, what was it? That when you are rolling, it, like, stops you. So normally, these enemies are supposed to, like, stop you when you walk into them, but when you roll through them, you can, like, roll through them, and they're intangible. I watched the clip. And yeah, we can fix that right now. The reason why it's doing that is because, I think it's because the player's collision class changes while you're rolling. And let's confirm that. So if I go to player move, I have a function called roll. And we change the anim. Here we go. Player sets collision class to safe. So while the collision class is safe, that's when the enemy should be intangible to the player. And I have this set in collision classes. I know exactly what's wrong. So I made these two new ones. There's Mob and Mob Solid. And let's see, how does this work? Oh, here we go. Safe. So the player collision class changes into safe while he's rolling. And while rolling, it ignores all of these classes. Now, by the way, I'm going to get rid of enemy and enemy 2 at some point. But right now, I'm going to add in mob and mob 2 because rolling should ignore those. Or not mob 2, I called it mob solid. That's a better name for it. Do you go through while walking up and down? I mean, it doesn't matter the direction. But yeah, at the moment, rolling stops it. But if I apply this change that I was just working on, I think if I save and rerun, that should fix it. So let's try that. And also, I should set it so it auto-loads next time. There we go. And let's zoom in. There we go. Excuse me. Or make the character be pushed back like they fall, like for walls or others. Add some more enemy types. Okay, so I see what you're saying with the fall back. And yes, that's true. When you walk into things, I do want it to just stop you in place. Maybe I could have some kind of like push animation when you're stopped. Are we going to add some more enemy types? Yeah, so I don't know if I'm going to add new enemy types, but I'm going to be taking old enemy types and reworking them into the new enemy code. So first, let's make sure that... Whoops. Let's make sure that the physics is right on this. So I have this set up so by default, it's not solid. But rolling through it is fixed now. And I think it should be fixed for all of the mobs. Let's spawn slime. Ow. So I should be able to roll through it now. I wasn't able to do that before. Yeah, so visually that doesn't look too much different from how the enemies were before. Can't you just put a wall collision inside the dummy? Yeah, but the thing is, wall collisions have their own properties. And, like for example, when the spear hits a wall, it creates this spark effect. And I don't want it to create that spark effect on the enemy. And if I put a wall collider just directly inside the enemy, then we get that behavior in place, and that's something I need to be aware of. Shade Cloak, hi, welcome in. Let's double check. This is fine. So what I also want to do... Sorry, my throat. I've been complaining about my throat every single stream. I think I just need to talk more. I want to make it so that the new dummy is solid by default. So, how did I set this up? Mob physics. The start or entrance will change this to accurate. And I don't want it to. I think that it's just going to set it here. So I'm going to take this line, and we're going to add a new small section. We got 2 Stardew Valley songs in a row. That's very nice. Is the bot working? It is. Yeah, it is. So I'm going to say if mob.solid then. So sometimes you want an enemy to be solid where you can't just walk through them. And the dummy is one of those. So I'm going to give it a property. Oh, look, it already predicted it, but I'm going to put it at the top. I'll say mob.solid. So with that in place, I should be able to walk into the dummy, and then it will stop me from walking through it. So let's spawn. It's still not stopping me. So maybe I need to change... It's possible that maybe somewhere else it's changing the collision class. So let me check this. I bet this is being called... Oh, look. Yeah. There's a function that does this. Oh, I already have this. Okay. The only problem was I wasn't calling this function here. I already did this. I have a function specifically for setting the collision class and I didn't even notice it. Let's see, we got Future, Kaitaro. Thank you for stopping in. Why is the middle dummy passable? Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to fix. Because they're working off of a different code. So these are the old enemies. These 2. And then I'm going to spawn a new one. And this is the new enemy code. And it's fixed. It's fixed. Okay, so, and I can still roll through it. You know, some GD script and some Python. What's the next step? Really, it doesn't really matter what languages you're learning. It's just what you want to work on. So if there's a specific type of project that interests you, in my case, it's game development. Just make games. It doesn't matter what the project is. It can be like a web project where you're making a website, or if you're working with Python, that sounds like that could be some data stuff, or a GD script. That's Godot stuff, right? Man, this song is really loud. I think I'm gonna skip this one. I like Kirby music, but some of those songs are just a little bit too intense. Whoa! Oh, I know. That's what I need to fix with the new mobs. So if you look really closely, the player like dashes towards the enemy like this, and it's really satisfying when it does that. But the new mobs probably don't have that in place yet. Oh! I crashed the game. I didn't expect that. Hitbox 275. So, e.parent hit. That's weird. Oh, it's not hit. Wait, what? Hit enemies, but it's not an enemy. Let's see. So this is what's very weird. What's very weird is that I crashed the game here in this section of code, but the problem with this section of code is you can only reach this point by hitting an enemy. And I didn't hit an enemy just now. I hit a mob. So I think there's some kind of mistake somewhere where it's mistakenly treating the mob as an enemy. You can't replicate it. I wonder what I did. Maybe I changed it just now. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, I must have changed something just now because it's just broken. I definitely just broke something. I don't know I don't know how. What could possibly have broken that? I don't think it's this. Or maybe... My videos are helpful? Thank you. I wish there was a video to tell me what's causing my code to crash right now. Because I'm sure it's something really obvious, but for some reason I'm missing it. Okay, so let's reevaluate this. The crash is saying that hit is nil. So how did that happen? Well, there's a million questions actually, because 275, it's saying that this function here is nil, which is true. Because it's not an enemy. E.parent, I didn't hit an enemy. Did I change? I think I... Oh, collision class solid? I think that I have this set incorrect. Ah, look at this! I found the problem. Okay, so my mob code incorrectly starts off mobs as enemies. So I need to change this to mob solid. That is going to fix the problem. Alright. That'll definitely fix that bug. There we go. Okay, but anyway, back to what I was trying to work on a second ago, which is that there's supposed to be like a little dash towards the enemy. And you can see it over here. If I stand like this, the player like dashes towards. And he doesn't really do that for this one. Yeah, it's just not doing it. So the reason why it's not doing it is because if I load up hitboxes, look really closely where my mouse is. For a brief moment, you can see those lines extending out in front of the player. If those lines collide with an enemy, that's what causes it to dash forward. But the thing is, this right now isn't being considered an enemy, it's being considered a mob, so we need to fix that. I think this happens in player attack. Why use Unity? I don't use Unity. Anything I'm excited for in the coming months? I mean, just getting this demo out for people to play. It really has been a while. So, when you start an attack... This is the problem with having, like, old code and there's lots of stuff in here. I don't remember exactly where the... Oh, here, attack dash. This is what it is. So I have this attack dash function. And by the way, I'm gonna have to rewrite this soon because it's so... This is ugly. That's bad. But it does tell me how to dash forward. And somewhere in here, it's going to be searching, yeah, for enemy and enemy 2. I'm gonna change this to... I might as well change it to all of them. Mob solid. There we go. Wolf doesn't like TTS. I don't like TTS. Don't blame that on Wolf. No, if anyone dislikes it, it's me. The reason I don't like it is just because when people post those sound clips, it is hard for me to see if someone is saying something inappropriate because it's like all within a WAV file, and I don't want to listen to everyone's craziness through sound bites. It's just too much. So I think that keeping things in text form is better. Like, a one-off isn't that big of a deal, but there were people yesterday that were like posting a bunch of sound clips. In the collision class of mob, you put mob and mob 2. Oh, whoops, you're right. Let's check. Actually, I can just search the entire code base for mob 2. Oh, okay, I must have fixed it. I'm sure you're right. I bet I did write mob 2 for a moment, but it looks like I did fix it to mob solid, because mob 2's gone. Good. You can't listen to them on mobile since it's MP3. Oh, that's really annoying. Yeah, that's particularly annoying. Let's see. So what's next? Now... Oh! Wait. Oh, yeah, that was weird that he, like, didn't hurt me for a moment. Another thing is, I think that enemies aren't being interrupted properly out of their attacks. Let's see. So, when the enemy is tackling me... Oh, that's kind of hard to predict. Oh, it worked. Kind of. Also, it's intentional that enemies hit each other. Yeah, it is intentional. It probably is kind of weird right now because I bet if I spawned, like, a bunch of slimes, and they're gonna hit each other. Oh, whoops. They're gonna hit each other because they're all crowded together. But I want to make it so that their pathfinding is a little bit more intelligent, where they kind of separate out, or they might try to, like, surround you maybe, or just they won't be grouped up as much. But I bet that if I spawn a bunch of these, they're gonna... maybe they're not. Maybe I screwed things up. I bet I did screw things up since... Let's see. I would have expected the enemy attacks to hit each other, so let's see why that didn't happen. So I'm gonna go to slime. How do you calculate the coordinates of the attack polygons? Yeah, that's pretty complicated. If I go over to player attack, you can see that, like, right now, it's done in a very manual, hacky way, where I'm like doing this for loop, and it's basically just doing a bunch of line checks in an iterative way, where it points a vector in one direction, and then it rotates it a little bit, checks that direction, rotates it a little bit more, and rotate. So this is super, super hacky. I would not recommend this, but it did produce that like very precise set of lines that makes the dash forward really nice. And I do something similar with the hitboxes too, I think, where here it's just querying circle and rectangle area, but for semicircle it does that same like rotating lines thing. Let's see. Mob solid, that's good. So do I have a spare mobs? Okay, I do have a spare mobs. I'm awesome. Thank you, Keitaro. Have a circle around the player, and when enemies get close, they go around you with almost... Well, I mean, that's kind of something I'm going to do. It's more like, I want them to separate from each other, because I don't need them to separate themselves from the player. It's more like, I just don't want them to crowd up. And right now, I kind of want to see why it's not really working. So I think I can set this to, like, 16, and then their hitboxes are going to be really big. Oh, not enemy. Okay, they are hitting each other. Okay, so the reason why they weren't hitting each other before, and this is gonna be very hard to see. I'm gonna do my best to show it. So I'm gonna turn the game speed down to half. Okay, so now we're working in slow mode. Then I'm going to spawn 2 slimes. And then I also need to turn on hitboxes. So you'll see that when these enemies are not actively attacking, like they're just walking right now, their hitboxes, it's just this octagon around their body. But when they get close enough, it actually creates a second hitbox, like a hurt box. So I'll get close enough to this one. You can see it starts trailing a little circle. That's basically the same size as itself. That's an additional hitbox that I need because it's... How do I explain this? Colliding with one of these solid colliders is less... I'm explaining this poorly. What I mean is that the circle collider is doing a constant frequent check, while the solid, like, octagon collider is more like its solid properties. It's more like its solid body that prevents it from, like, walking through walls and prevents it from passing through unpassable things. Like, they bounce off of each other right now thanks to their solid body. But the circle hitbox, that's what causes damage. And that circle hitbox needs to actually overlap with the octagon part in order for the enemy to take damage. But the problem is there can't be overlap between them because the circle is basically the exact same size as the octagon. And so when it's using this circle hitbox, it's just not causing any overlap because if they collide, they just bounce off of each other. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. So what's the solution? Do I make the hitbox bigger? Or I don't think I want to make it bigger. I can make it so that enemies can pass through each other. But do I want that? Right now I don't, because the fact that they don't pass through each other is the only reason why they can, like, crowd up. I'm going to die if I just sit here. What framework do I use? It's called Love 2D. 2 colliders, one for map, one's for hitbox. That's exactly right, TK4TK. Why is there a array between you and the merchant? So that's a good question, and a better example is over... let me first turn up the game speed back up. Let's turn the player speed up. Whee! So all of the NPCs have a line going towards me, and that's because they can shift their eyesight towards you. So, but she only does that if she has a line of sight towards you. Because, like, let's say that there was a wall right here. If there was a wall right here, separating us, then she wouldn't be able to just like flip and look at me. Like you see that she's flipping. But if she wasn't actually able to see me, then she wouldn't flip. Now why are these things doing line of sight checks? It's the same sort of thing. I only want the like this pop up, this exclamation point to pop up when there's line of sight, because there are some situations where like you're close enough to an object but then there's something separating you from it, and I don't want to accidentally like trigger one of these when it's not actually able to do that. So it's kind of a lame answer, but that is the truth. Whoop. There we go. And I'm gonna turn all this off because it's kind of ugly. What do I think of my suggestions on Discord besides the bestiary? I love the bestiary idea, and I do plan on implementing something like that in the future, but probably not until things are more solid and like things are more finalized. I'm making a project game as well, still rudimentary. Well, I mean, we all start with rudimentary stuff. That's the only way to get to more complicated things. In fact, I recommend it for most people. Keeping it simple at first is the best way to learn the fundamentals. So let's see, what should I work on next? Oh. So here's one thing that's kind of weird. So whenever the enemy attacks, or this is a mob, whenever the mob attacks, you can see that it cools down and like it stands still for a full second, and then it goes back to attacking. But it's weird that when I interrupt its attack, it doesn't do that. So I'm gonna try that one more time. So it attacks, it waits. It attacks, it waits. But if I interrupt its attack, it doesn't wait anymore. It skips the cooldown just because I hit it. And that's not what I want to happen. In fact, I think I know how to fix this. If an attack gets interrupted, it should apply its cooldown value immediately. That makes sense. I think. Does it? Does it make sense that the enemy would need to cool down from its attack even if the attack doesn't fully complete? Or should it have its own cooldown that's separate from that? Maybe there could be like a separate interrupted cooldown value? Or maybe like interrupting it does half the cooldown. Because that would make sense too. But then on top of that, there's the combo counter. So I'll see if I can demonstrate this too. With the old enemies, there is a combo protection in place where you can't just like stun lock enemies forever, which is a problem with the original versions of this game, is you could stun lock things. And I made it so that enemies like this guy, when you start attacking him, he does get stunned in place, but if you attack him too many times, he will jump away. Like, he won't get stunned in place for more than a second. Have the cooldown. I think having the cooldown makes sense. Okay. I'm seeing people say that, so I'll give that a shot. So let's say have the cooldown. So the way this works is mob attack, and there's a function that I made called attack finish. And actually, it's this cooldown, mob.attack.cooldown. That's probably, yeah, that's probably what I wanted to do. So on top of that, it's not mob dot, it's mob engage. I made this file called mob engage, and then this is where the take hit function is. So when you hit an enemy, it calls this code, and there's all kinds of stuff in here that happens, and somewhere in here, I need to make it so that if an attack is being interrupted, attack hit finish. So I think I can say if mob.state, because I have a state variable Let's see how I've done this before. Mob animum. Sorry, I'm not checking the chat for a moment. I'm gonna see if I can get this working. Carno, I need sleep. That's a good name. Would I recommend learning how to program in Lua? Yeah, totally. It's pretty easy to learn. I have a video on my channel from a few months ago that's really nice for the intro phases. So I have this if mob.state is equal to attack and mob.attack and mob.attack.anim name. Well, I could just do this part. If mob.state is equal to attack and mob.attack. Then. So what this means is if the enemy is attacking actively, then I can do that. But also, I need to apply that cooldown. And I'm going to do this first, that. And how did I do it here? I did mob evaluate. That's good. This is actually what I want. And I'll say mob cooldown divided by 2. This might get weird because I do wonder what will happen. I'm gonna have to look out for this. I wonder what will happen if you like get a bunch of quick attacks off on an enemy like really fast. I do think currently just having mob that attacked a cooldown divided by 2, that's going to allow it to be stun locked. And I'm going to need to put something in place to decrease that value each time it gets hit in succession. Which is what I have on the current enemies to like prevent the stun locking thing. But I think this will get us to the point where I can at least interrupt enemies. Or mobs. The way I spawn them, they attack you instantly. It still didn't work. Yeah, he's just going immediately. So let's see. That didn't work. I think what I need to do instead. I think I know what I need to do instead. It's not here. This is right when the enemy gets hit. But this isn't when I need to do this logic. It's actually when the enemy is no longer stunned that I need to do this logic. Or it's when... So that decreasing thing that I talked about a second ago, that does need to happen here. But it also needs to happen in the timer, mob timer. Come on. So stun. Okay, so when stun is done, this is where it needs to apply that cooldown thing. But now the problem is, while it's stunned, does it finish the attack? This is a little bit complicated. Fitz, I was having a problem with enemies' collision on walls. Didn't find a solution, just left it for now to make other functions. Problem to see things. I'm not quite sure what you mean. So, what exactly is wrong with your enemy's collision with walls? Because there's lots of things that could cause that. Are they getting, like, stuck on the walls? What tools do I use for pixel art creation? I use Ace Sprite, like this one. I'm still thinking about how I should best do this. Because I guess I could just call this. I should call this. I should call this. I don't want to call attack hit finish. Oh, this is the problem. I do actually want to call attack finish. Yeah, I think I can just call this because attack finish. If it's disruptible, I do want to finish the attack, and when you finish the attack, it's going to apply the cooldown. I think this is going to work. Haha, I predicted it this time. It didn't... It still didn't work. It's still not working. Man, come on. Do I have a stun state for the mobs, or are you just pausing them during the attack state? So the way this works is when you stun something, all that means is that I'm setting a timer called stun, and then in the rest of the code, like in the mind, in mob mind, it checks to see if you're stunned, then it's just gonna change your task to be idle. But if you're not stunned, that's when it does something else. Let's see. I think this is going to be more complicated than I thought it was going to be, because what I think I need to do is, instead of immediately calling attack finish, because that's not what I need to do, I think maybe I do call attack finish immediately. Attack hit finish is going to remove the hitboxes, that's fine. Unlock state and then cooldown. I think first I need to change the state, do I? I'm sorry that I'm just kind of thinking through this for a moment. So attack hit finish, and then it's going to evaluate. So when it evaluates, this is weird actually, because okay, this is very strange. When this stun timer gets set, later on in the exact same loop, it's going to come down here, and it's going to call attack finish, which is then going to come over here, and then call evaluate, but the mob is stunned right now. So that's not going to work. That's not going to work. I need to... Instead... I think what I need to do is I need to make a new timer. I need to make a new timer called cooldown. Instead of evaluating it with this cooldown thing, I can just say mob : set timer to this, and it's going to be counting down. This makes so much more sense. This makes so much more sense. I'm not going to do it this way. But now if I want this to work, I need to actually check this timer variable inside of mob mind. Am I coding the entire game alone? Yeah, I'm the only one working on it. The coding, at least. Some people are helping me with pixel art and stuff. And Wolf's helping me with testing. Attack finish is disruptible. So what I want to do is, instead of evaluating, I just got sidetracked. So you set the timer, and then the mob is going to handle that. So I'm going to do the same thing here. We don't want to evaluate. We just want to set the timer. And actually, I'm going to set the timer and then do attack hit finish. Because this... attack hit finish. Actually, in this case, it doesn't matter which one comes first. Do I want to attack hit finish or attack finish? I think I want to attack finish, because it's going to do both of them. I think I want to do this. They're just clipping through the walls. They have the same logic as the player, so I don't know exactly what I'm doing wrong. Well, clipping through walls normally indicates to me that, like, your movement logic is set up where it just moves a certain number of pixels per frame, even adjusted for DT. But then what that means is that if it's moving, let's say 10 pixels forward every frame, that means that you could potentially move 10 pixels forward into a wall, and then now you're inside of a wall by 10 pixels. You're still sad about the iBaby. Well, maybe the iBaby can make a return. Pippa, hi, welcome in. What? What the heck? Was that Copilot? That was weird. It just showed my Copilot for a moment. I'm glad I wasn't asking it anything weird. I'm trying to get Lua right now, but the folder only has 4 files called docs. I mean, I don't think you need to worry about that. Like, you don't even need to install Lua. With Love2D, you don't need to install Lua, and if you're following my Lua tutorial on my YouTube channel, you also don't need to install Lua for that. You can do it all in your browser. So, I like going that deep into it. I think you're doing something a little bit too much. So let me double check the logic here. You hit an enemy while it's attacking. If the state is attack and it's attacking, then it's going to apply this cooldown timer and finish the attack. When the attack is finished, actually, I don't even need to set the cooldown. Well, maybe I do. So actually, what this is going to do is normally attack finish sets the timer to cooldown, but then this one is going to override it to be cooldown divided by 2. So that makes sense. That's fine. And it unlocks a state. That's good. So I think that that's going to handle it pretty well. But now in Mob Mind, I need to do something similar. So, if there's a cooldown timer or there's a stun timer, either or, it's going to set the task to be idle. What other languages do I know? I know quite a few. So in high school, I learned Visual Basic, then Java. College was Java and C++. One of my jobs was Python. One of them was C++. Then at Microsoft, I used C#. I used TypeScript. I used all the like web-based stuff like CSS and SQL and things like that. So all the ones like that, and then Lua, obviously. We don't need to learn about modules, coroutines, the file handling stuff in Lua to get started in game dev. No, I don't use any of that stuff. I don't think I would worry about it. My question is if you think it's wise to leave some functions behind, sometimes to look for some other things. Leave some functions behind, sometimes to look for some other things. Not really solving the problem, but leaving it on check so you can get other things done. Well, yeah, that's fine. What you're saying is, rather than beating your head against a wall to figure out the problem that you're stuck on, move on to something else. That's a perfect idea. I think that's great. When I toggle the show query debug function for Winfield, it shows for a bit all the query made for the game freezing. Oh, that makes it sound like you're. Is it only doing it when you show the drawing, or is it doing it no matter what? Because that makes it sound like you're constantly spawning in new colliders frequently, which would cause the game to crash. I don't think that's what, I think that's what it sounds like, is that you're creating new queries every frame rather than drawing them. So, what was I working on? Oh yeah, I was going to test to make sure that the cooldown thing worked, and I don't know if it does. We actually need to make sure it does. So, his regular attack still cools down normally, and hitting him normally doesn't interrupt anything. Oh, there we go. It worked. It worked. It worked. Oh, well, let me try another one. There we go. Look at that. It's so nice. Hey, very, very good. It's hard to even tell what happened, but all that's happening is that when you hit it, it stops moving for a little bit. But it's only when you interrupt its attack does it do that little pause. Because if I hit it now, he's not going to pause. When you hit him when he's not attacking, it doesn't do anything special. That's really, really nice. How many enemies do you add to the scene and the game starts to lag? Let's see. I actually don't know. I showed in one stream that it could be quite a few. Let's go over to this scene over here. And let's spawn in... it's doing fine. Hasn't started to lag yet. So first, let me make myself invincible. Is there a way to do that? Oh yeah, there is. In, Am I using a game engine or a framework? I'm using a framework called Love2D. So let's try that again. And it looks like I can spawn quite a few more. Are you also senior in game development? I bet most people here are newcomers, don't worry. It's really easy to get stuck on stuff. And also, it sounds like the... Whoa! Okay, I crashed the game. I did crash the game. It's official. So there is a limit. You can't have this many monsters on screen, otherwise it will crash the game. So let's not do that anymore. Yeah, so what I was saying is that, like, Fitz, it sounds like the type of game you're working on is a little bit on the advanced side, because if you were brand new, I normally say a brand new developer should start with a very easy game like Pong or Space Invaders. Those are the two examples I give constantly. And if you're working on something that has, like, walls and collisions, that's already more complex than most newcomers have to deal with. So it's okay if you have questions on that sort of thing. It's pretty normal. And yeah, most people here are newcomers. It's hard to get into game development. Make RDR3. Yeah, that's a good first project. So from here... Oh yeah, there's this guy too. This is also from the new... So one thing I wanted to point out about this eyeball enemy is the problem with how I had the old enemies set up is that they were completely reliant on their animations for doing anything. If something wanted to tackle like this, it needed to have an animation that was designated tackle. If it didn't have a tackle animation, it was unable to tackle. So what is very new in this new enemy code is that this enemy doesn't have any animations. It just has the one flapping animation and nothing else. And even though that's the case, it's still able to do any attack with this like default basic animation. The animations are no longer a requirement for any specific action or ability. Like jumping, for example. How the bunyip or the frogs, they can jump really high in the air. But I needed to have an animation on the enemy that's called jump in order for that to be possible. But now I could theoretically put that on anything. I could even make it so like this guy over here just like gets up from his anvil and walks over to me and starts hitting me with his hammer. It would be very... It's a lot more customizable is what I'm saying. One thing I want to check is... So one thing I did recently is I made it so that you can spread this fire. So the fire spreads naturally. Ah, that's so cool. What needs to change, though, is the lighting. So I don't like how the light looks. When too many light sources are too close together, I notice that, like, overblows the saturation and all the levels get screwed up when really they should blend together nicely. So that's why I haven't really been showing that too much. You have a vision for the type of game you want to make for yourself. I mean, yeah, that vision that you're describing is normal. It's normal to want to jump into game development with this cool game idea that you have because that's what you want to make. But I'm telling you, the harsh truth is you can't just jump into that. I mean, you can, but you're asking for a hard time. So just be cautious. It's okay to take things one step at a time. If you want your game to be a game about like walking around and collecting things and crafting and whatever, that's fine. But take it one step at a time. Like start with just the character walking around and nothing else, and build a game that's so simple that it's comparable to Pong. Because my example also is if you were learning how to paint, if you're learning how to paint, would your first painting be a big mural on your bedroom wall? Probably not. You'd probably start with a very simple, small canvas, and you just paint an apple. It's a really simple painting. It's not a very interesting painting. It's not fun. That's not what your vision was when you set out to be a painter. It's not. You don't want to be an apple painter. That's not what you wanted to do. But painting apples is the first step to being a painter, and you got to do it. It's not fun. And it's the same with Pong. Pong is not fun to make, but if you know how to make Pong, then that's the first step to doing it. Borger, I'm going to make a game similar to you in Zelda-like style, but how do I get the game concept? I've only been adding new features in the world building, maps. I mean, what you're doing sounds fine. Is that I came up with ideas as they came. I added ideas as they just came to me, and the game evolved in that sense. In fact, I don't recommend that you sit down with pen and paper and plan out your game exactly how it's going to be, because it's not going to work out. You can plan things out as much as you want. You can have this vision for the game you want to make, but in the end, the only way to really know what works is to do it. Because I don't know, I didn't know any of these I didn't know if any of these mechanics would work out for my game either. I just had to do it and see for myself. Oh. Most games design themselves. In a way, yes. I mean, I still had to be very proactive in getting things designed, but... These slimes are ridiculously fast. Like a simple horror game? Sure. I mean, if that's your definition of simple, sure. But like, that's not what I said. I said Pong. I said make Pong, and Pong is as simple as it gets. So if you want to make something simple, find something simple. If a horror game is your definition of simple, by all means. But my definition of simple is even simpler than that. Atari Breakout. Did you know that you could do this on Google, where if you actually, you need to go on Google, not DuckDuckGo. So if I go to google.com and then I type in Atari Breakout, I think that you can go over to images. It doesn't do it anymore? There used to be this Easter egg where you could play Breakout in the Google browser. Oh, here. Yeah, look, like this. This is the type of game I think that you should make. Does this look fun? No? I think it does. See, that's the thing, is that even... Oh! You can still make a game like this fun. So, I think this is what everyone should start with. In fact, my first Love 2D game was exactly this. Hey, that's the best. Oh, you're not supposed to hit that. This is cool. I like this game. My mind is too complicated to think in a simple way. Yeah, sure. I mean, that's fine. And that's the other thing, is like, a lot of people have this, I don't want to say... I think people just have lofty goals, is all that it is. People want to get their games created. They have these game ideas, and I'm totally with you. And it's the same with artists. Like, people want to make these amazing art projects, and maybe they're just not quite there yet. I want to encourage everyone to get to that point, but like, you do have to go through the phase of making games like this first before you can make anything else. It's the unfortunate truth. Bomberman Hero. Oh my gosh, I love this OST. Oh my gosh, I'm so close. I think I just like jungle music in general. Whoa! See, like, this is actually kind of fun. I opened this up kind of as a joke, but I'm kind of hooked. You can totally make a good game, no matter what the style is, even if it's really simple like this. If you could do a crossover with any other game, like Cuphead, One Shot like Celeste, would I do it? I probably would do it. I think it would be fun if... Because I've thought about this. If, like, let's say MOONSHIRE does well, and then a few indie devs reach out and they're like, let's do a collab, or let's say I made a DLC area or an extra zone for MOONSHIRE. I think it'd be fun for some kind of, like, extra secret zone to be a collab or crossover. I mean, I know it's not realistic, but a Zelda crossover would be my all-time favorite. That'd be so much fun. And I shouldn't say it's not so. It's definitely not realistic, but it's not. It's within the realm of possibility though, because not Enter the Gungeon. What was it? Crypt of the Necrodancer. Crypt of the Necrodancer had their Zelda crossover. And is that an American studio? I think it is. I'm gonna look that up in a second. But that's my answer, is a Zelda crossover, even though that's really lofty. I wouldn't say that's realistic. Oh my gosh, is this good streaming content? Because I'm enjoying myself. Ah! Okay. Well, it was good while it lasted. Balatro x MOONSHIRE. Oh, Balatro would be so good! That'd be so good. I saw Balatro did a crossover with, like, Among Us and a couple other indie games. Oh, The Witcher? They did some really crazy ones. Balatro crossover. Oh my gosh, there's some cool ones. Do they have the images? Okay, so they have The Witcher. What is this? Oh, that's Dave the Diver. This is Among Us and Vampire Survivors. This is awesome. This is so cool. I would love to someday have a little Lua. Oh, they have Binding of Isaac. This looks like Slay the Spire. This is Stardew Valley. Is this Crypt of the Necrodancer? I think it's the same one I was just talking about. Let me make sure. Oh, no, it's Cyberpunk. That's Cyberpunk 2077. That's an odd one. Man, there's a lot of these. There's Gungeon. Is that Inscription? In Shovel Knight? Cult of the Lamb? Don't Starve. Oh, what's this one? And what's that one? I can't even tell. Some of these are awesome. I've never heard of this. Warframe, Potion Craft, Divinity Original Sin. Man, these are some strange ones. I love Balatro though. That's so cool that they have all these crossovers. Is the fog a shader or is it some semi-transparent panel? It is both, actually, because I can go ahead and show this. That's a good question. So the fog in my game is really subtle, but you can see it around like the edges, like around here. You can see it pretty well around here. And yes, it is a very large image that just translates across the screen, and it is mostly transparent. But you'll notice that when the fog reaches the player, he's holding a torch. You can't see the fog at all anymore. The fog completely goes away when it's around a light source. So it does use shaders in order to achieve that effect. And I bet I can find it. It would be under... Where would this be? I think it would be under backgrounds. I think it's this one. It looks a little odd because of the color, but since it's mostly transparent, it fades into the scene really nicely. So this is just a very large sprite, and it tiles itself, so it repeats itself multiple times, and just translates slowly across the screen to make like a fog effect. I made a Pong clone with new mechanics as a joke project, and wow, it was something I didn't finish it due to losing interest in the project. Well, I mean, you don't have to finish all your projects, and that's the thing, is that if you're making Pong, that kind of implies that it's a somewhat learning project. So as long as you're learning and getting something out of it, that's the main goal. It doesn't have to be finished. I'd say most people don't finish all of their games, as long as you're getting something out of it. Have you made a specific weapon combat video, like how and you give the so no, I haven't exactly done that, because the way the weapons work is kind of, let me think. I did make a video talking about the weapons a little bit because the game didn't start out having any pick-upable weapons. When the game started, there was just the sword, and then eventually I reached the point where I wanted to add things that you could pick up, like rocks or a bomb, and then you could pick up a rock and throw the rock at the enemies. And I do have a video talking about that, but I don't have a video kind of explaining exactly how all of this works, because it is really complicated. The way the weapons work is all the weapons are entirely separated from the character that's holding them. And instead, there's this function called offset that gets called. And this just changes its position to match the exact spot on the player. Like held off X, held off Y. It checks like what animation or attack are we using, and then it moves the weapon to the exact position based on like the animation frame. Like the player's attack animation only has 3 frames, and it translates the weapon to match the exact position and rotation of that attack. Like this stab, this is a stab animation, and it moves it forward 7 pixels, it moves it back 7 pixels, forward 7 pixels, and then back 1 more pixel. That's how it gets that stabbing forward motion. I'll try doing something more simple. I won't stop my current project, but I'll go with this idea. What do you think of a game where you can dig and get upgrades as you go? That sounds fine. As long as it's simple. What's the most inspired thing for you this game other than Zelda? Let's see. I mean, Hollow Knight is also kind of a cliched answer because I talk about Hollow Knight a lot in my videos, and there are genuinely just a ton of concepts that I've used from that game. So I'll say, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and say that that's my answer, is Hollow Knight. Just because I really like its world-building style. Its combat's so good. I just made a video, actually, about how I was inspired by Hollow Knight's like knockback and this damage effect here, how the circles pop off of this guy. That's from Hollow Knight. That's just specifically an effect that I saw in Hollow Knight. I'm like, wow, that looks really cool. And I put it in my game. Elden Ring's a good example, because I talk about Elden Ring a lot too. Elden Ring I just think is an amazing an amazing game. It's just so well made. So moving forward, let's see what else I should work on with these little guys. Or if anyone has any requests on something I should work on. Oh, so the reason I was talking about this guy earlier is because look at his wind-up. His wind-up takes a while. And compare that to the old version. His wind-up takes forever. Or sorry, his wind-up is very fast. Where is he? Over here. His wind-up is so fast because it's based off of his animation. His animation is so fast, and that's why his wind-up is so fast. I couldn't figure out a way to make his wind-up slower because it's based off of the animation alone. So now the new enemies, you can specifically set how long their wind-up takes if it's not animation. Sorry, if it's not animation-based. What if the people of the eye always follow the player's position? Yeah, that's a good idea. In fact, I've implemented that idea before. I'm going to see if I can pull up a video where that's shown, because I do have that in the game. You know what? It's going to take me a while to pull that up, so I'm not going to do that right now. But yeah, I think it's an idea that I should put back into the game, because it's something I put in before. Might as well put it back. You can make it a ranged enemy? Yeah, so I've been working on another enemy that's kind of a ranged enemy, this eye wasp. Whoop. Because this one, he's still incomplete, because like he doesn't even have animations for his attack or his stab. He just kind of like moves towards you. But this one shoots big explosive acid balls at you. This enemy's really scary. What is Tiled? Tiled is the software that I use to design the levels. And I'll show that in a second. So tiled, I'll go ahead and open that up. This is how I design all my levels, is I have this software here. And like, this is the town that I was just in. You can see all these markers for like all the grass and the plants. This is the blacksmith up here. You have all of his stuff in his area. And then there's also like these walls that are layered over top of everything to keep you from walking through the walls. We have the save point. And basically this entire map is just drawn in the software, and then it gets imported into Love2D to display it. Does Love support TMX format? It doesn't support well, it does, kind of. Instead, you don't use the TMX files. Instead, you export it, and you can export them as Lua files. Like, Tiled can export the map as a Lua file, and then there's third-party software that can import the Lua files into Love2D. It's pretty easy. So yeah, this software here is Tiled. But I've spent so much time working in Tiled, just working on these maps and reworking them over and over and over again. It really is a process getting to a final point on any of these maps. Yoshi's Island music, yeah, I love this. I love the soundtrack. It is so good. Is Tiled good? Yeah, I think it's great. The other option is LDTK. Is that what it is? LDTK map engine? Is that what it is? It's LDTK. This is another alternative that some people have been recommending. And I have it, actually. I think I have it on my computer. Yeah. So we looked at this before. It really is similar. It's just a detailed map. Whoop. It's just a detailed map, and the other thing is, looks like you can import specific aspects of it and use it as. So it probably has specific features that maybe are more useful for different types of games. But my thing is that I've been using Tiled for so long that I'm so used to it. It would be too time consuming for me to relearn everything in this new software. So I've been sticking with Tiled. I like it. How and when did I start marketing my game? I mean, you could say that I started marketing it by making the YouTube videos and stuff, so from the start, but really, I don't think marketing is that important at all. This is a common discussion with game developers, is that they'll create a game, they'll post it on Steam, and then it won't sell well, and then they'll say, well, that's because I didn't market it. My marketing was bad. That's why it didn't sell well. But man, I've seen so many postmortems. I've read so many reports and looked at so many games that just didn't perform well on Steam. And every single one of them, there's something that I would blame first before the marketing. Either the game just didn't look good, or it was priced too high, or there was some other competitor that was better, it was derivative, maybe the Steam page itself wasn't flattering, or there was mistakes in it, something about it was off. There's so many things that can go wrong with the game that just kills it from the start. And those are the problems to focus on, not really marketing. If all those problems are solved and players really are resonating with your game well, I mean, marketing will help. There's a reason why companies market their games. It's so they can sell more of their game. But there's no point in marketing a game that's not good. There's no point, because people will go to the page that you spent money to market for, and they'll go to the page and they'll see that it's a crappy game and they won't buy it. It's a very harsh reality, but I think that any time spent marketing your game rather than developing it is not worth it unless your game is done. Or, like, you know, maybe you can show progress. Show progress videos, do devlogs, do Twitter posts, or show progress, you know, whatever. Do that sort of stuff. Show people your progress. Show people that there is a game being developed. But in terms of marketing, I don't think that you should be marketing an incomplete product, because people won't be interested in purchasing an incomplete product. You can show off aspects of it. Definitely, you should start a following, post progress on Twitter or whatever site you want to use. If you want to make videos on YouTube, that works too, or TikTok, or whatever platform you want to track things on. But I wouldn't really call that marketing. Calling that marketing is a little bit too loose. I think marketing, like making actual advertisements and making commercials or paying for ads on YouTube or paying for sponsored streams. There's all kinds of marketing that goes into that. And if you're paying for that stuff and the game isn't good, waste of money, huge waste of money. And how do you know if the game's good until it's done? It's really hard. It's really, really tough. So when to start marketing? You can start marketing it right away, but I wouldn't invest any money into marketing it until you have very high confidence that it will sell, because there's no point in spending money on marketing on a product that won't sell. Playtesting? Yeah, I mean, and a lot of people are really eager to playtest right away, even without having to pay them. So I pay Wolf a little bit for testing, but there's also a lot of people in the Discord server that just like playtesting, and people are eager to help out each other. A lot of devs like helping out other devs. So let's go back to... I don't even know what I should work on. Because the problem with working on these mobs is that it's complicated enough where I kind of get distracted while working on it, and I don't really know if I should be working on that right now. Am I still planning on a 2025 release for Moonshire? I mean, that'd be nice, but realistically, that's probably not possible. I would like to say yes, but I don't even know when this demo version is going to come out, so it's hard to even say when the full game is going to be done. Let's see. I don't even know what I could do. You're making glorified Pong? I mean, that's a great way to start. Do I have a Kickstarter? How do I fund Moonshire? That's a good question. I don't use Kickstarter, and I'm not crowdfunding it at all. Moonshire is funded just from me. I pay for it all myself, and I am working on it full time, even though it doesn't produce money. Just because, and the way I'm able to do that is because before working on Moonshire, I was very focused on my career. I had a software development career. I worked at Microsoft, and I lived very well below my means. I was super dedicated to making sure I could reach this point where I could work on the game without worrying about like the finances behind it. It is really tough to be financially successful in game development, and that's why I saved up money but in a different career. That was the only way I was able to pull it off. I'm excited to see it when it's ready. Thank you, I appreciate that. At the same time, though, I still need to feel some sense of urgency, because taking too long on the game is no good. I understand that a game that takes forever to get out is still going to be good in the end. Or, sorry, I shouldn't praise it that way. There's that quote that Miyamoto said that, like, a rushed game will always be bad, but a game that takes its time being created will eventually be good. And I do agree with that. But at the same time, when you're trying to get people excited about your product and your game, you can't take too long with it, otherwise people lose their hype. That happens all the time. What I work on at Microsoft? I worked on Microsoft Azure, so that's their like cloud platform. It's late once, but bad forever. Yeah. That's it. And that's the way I'm kind of seeing this too, is that I look at the Steam demo from 8 months ago, because that's when the last time I updated it was, and it's so much worse in this new version. I'm almost embarrassed by it. And with that in mind, I'm very happy with all the progress I'm seeing, but at the same time, it would be cool if I could get this out there for people to play, because that's way more important than anything else. Where upgrades were a thing. Whoa. Oh, come on. I didn't have any health. I didn't notice that I was on 1 health. Rain, hi, welcome in. Live coding from scratch a very simple game like Pong. That actually sounds like a cool idea. That sounds like a cool idea, and I think a lot of people would like that. Showing the actual end-to-end full process, because I have my tutorials on my channel, but they are kind of isolated. They don't really show the full unedited, unscripted full process, and I could do that. I would know how to do that. That's a cool idea. You know what? I think I'm gonna write that down and plan to do that. Was I ever into Magic the Gathering? No, not specifically. I've watched plenty of pack openings because I think they're fun, And although I wasn't into Magic the Gathering, when I was in high school, I was into Yu-Gi-Oh! I really liked Yu-Gi-Oh! So that's similar, kind of, you know. But I wasn't ever into Magic specifically. Do I think we should show our progress in our game as often as possible, or keep as many things secret as possible? So it goes both ways, because if you're developing a game, you don't want to reveal all your secrets, because then people will know exactly what to expect when they play the game fully. But on the other hand, when you're like an indie dev, a solo dev, or you're working on your own game, or it's a small term project, I think it's better to show off your progress as you go, because there's not really going to be a grand reveal. A AAA game should keep all of their cards close to their chest to keep that secret alive. But a small indie game doesn't have that same level of impact, and instead, it's the relatability of it that kind of makes it real. So I'd say for indies, it's much better to be showing off progress as you make it, because you'll be happy that you can go back and see all of that iterative progress. You won't be mad that you spoiled some of the surprises, because those surprises are going to be changing over the course of development anyway. And if you keep them all hidden, then no one's going to see them at all. I think it's better just to show them off as they come in, because you never really know yourself what to expect. And the payoff of... It's like a payoff thing, right? Where if you keep things hidden, the payoff for when it's finally revealed is bigger and grander, which is nice. But at the same time, if you never reach that point, which in all likelihood, it might not get to that point, then it's kind of a waste. So I don't think it's wise to fully secretly hide everything. But if you see that you have something like let's say that Moonshire is on the cusp of coming out and it has all these wish lists and I'm really excited for it, I think at that point it could make sense for me to put in some secret hidden stuff or things like that, because then I think that there's a high likelihood that people would see it. What I'm getting at is I wouldn't recommend putting in a bunch of work without knowing when the payoff will be. Secrets are great, but it's cool to show off cool mechanics. Yeah, that's what I mean, is that if you have something to show, you should just show it, because it's going to take too long for the whole thing to manifest in a whole complete package. Have I got a special skin for dev? Special skin for dev. Do you mean like changing the character? Because you can change the colors. My game looks good. Thank you. Thank you, Brandon. I like my little guy's cape flaps. Yeah, I like that too. It took a while to reach that point. The way it's animated is kind of intricate. I don't want to say intricate because it's just 6 frames, but I spent a very, very long time developing it. Let me pull up the sprite sheet for it because it's kind of cool. It's not this one, although this one is funny too. Look at this character design. I like this one. It's funny. It's so weird. I think it's this one. I've shown this time lapse lots of times, but this is how I worked on the walk cycle. Is Tris Pixels helped with making this first draft, and this was helpful for finding like the keyframes. But I put a lot of work into reshifting everything. And I think it looks a lot better like this. I really do like this walking animation. It's nice. So this is the after. This is before, after. How did I learn pixel art? You just have to do it all the time. So I had Game Maker when I was a kid, and you could like make your own sprites in Game Maker. So that's where I picked up a lot of the skills. What's the objective of Moonshire? Not really sure yet. I mean, in the demo, there's not really a demo, or there's not really an objective. It's kind of just to wander around and beat the bosses. Is my game camera a square, or did you make the size just for testing? Oh, so the game camera is fully adjustable. So right now it's in windowed mode, and I could make it a square. I can also shrink it down to make it more of a rectangle. It can fit any size, any dimensions. It could be really, really wide and small like this. I could make it really small and narrow like this. It is fully functional, and I'm very proud of how, what do you call it? Just flexible it is. There's no better word for it. It can adapt to whatever screen size, and it works nicely. Did I draw all the tile sheets? No. A lot of the tile sheets come from open source or paid asset packs, and then I edit them to match my style. So I definitely put in a lot of work to these tile sets, because I can't just leave them as is how they are in the asset pack. I always have to make edits of some kind. Am I still prototyping major mechanics? I wouldn't say I'm prototyping major mechanics, but I'm prototyping the execution of those major mechanics. Like shattering your weapon. That's gone through a few different iterations. Spells, that's gone through a few iterations. Or dodging, or charge attacks, or dash attacks. These are all things that I plan to put in the game. Like, the dash attack is done. That's really cool that I can do that like this. This is what the dash attack is. Normally to do the stab, you have to slash and then stab. But if you do a dash attack, you can stab immediately. Oh! That didn't work. A frame for tweening in between their front and back. Yeah, I would consider that. That's a cool idea. I'm not sure how that would look, though. I like, in my mind, I can't picture what that would look like, but I think that that could work. Because, yeah, I would say that that is a very noticeable issue. So if you're playing the game and you do like this, that does look strange. That does look weird. Show me the camera thing, please. Well, the camera thing, and what do you mean by that? What context or what content should I go through for the first YouTube video of my game? I don't really know. I mean, when it comes to making YouTube videos, it's hard for me sometimes to even talk about that stuff too, because I don't really know what my topics are going to be until I'm working on the game, and then I make something cool, and I'm like, okay, I can make a video talking about that. Really, I think that if you want to make videos about your game, I would say just take some video clips every day that you work on your game, like record various miscellaneous things, and then make a video showcasing your progress. And it doesn't have to be a long video either. Make it like a 2 or 3 minute video just showing a few different clips from a few different points in development. And you can do like 1 video a month and make it really dense. It's hard making videos, by the way. Making YouTube videos is its own skill. It takes a long time to develop the skills necessary to make good videos, so be patient with that as well. The camera resize idea, that could also be applied to mobile cameras too, right? Yeah, totally. It's complicated making a camera that's totally adjustable, but it's just a matter of understanding how your camera works and resizing it, rescaling it, zooming it in and out, and doing all the math involved to make it do that. But making a camera that works like that, it takes some math. It takes some understanding of how all of this stuff is rendered. Oh my gosh, I am screwing up like crazy. These slime guys are way too fast. Also, why didn't that hurt me? Oh my gosh. Am I excited for the Oblivion remaster? I will probably play it, but if I'm being honest, no, not really. I played Morrowind, I played Oblivion, and I played Skyrim, and Oblivion was my least favorite of the 3. So I wouldn't say I'm very excited for Oblivion. And I can articulate exactly why I dislike Oblivion. It's because Oblivion is meant to be an immersive experience. It feels more like an immersive world than it does a game. And I say that because, like, all of the NPCs in that game, they all have their own schedules, and they, like, wander around town, or they go out and they do stuff. And sometimes it's really annoying that they do that, because then you have to go and find them. And it makes the game kind of tedious to play, and I found it very annoying. So, but at the same time, though, lots of people have their own opinions on this game, where they say Oblivion is their absolute favorite, because it's so immersive. It feels real. It feels more like a lived-in world because of that stuff. And I can appreciate it, but as someone who plays games for the enjoyment of playing the game, I don't really care about the, like, immersive aspect more, because I feel like in Oblivion, that immersive aspect kind of takes away from the gameplay, because it takes longer for me to find people and things are a little bit more annoying. And the cost of that isn't worth the immersiveness. Have I seen the Sky Oblivion mod? Yeah, actually I did see that. It does seem pretty cool. Just because visually I love how Skyrim looks, and I like Skyrim's gameplay more than Oblivion's as well. Oh, this place has already been here. Great response, thank you. A lot of those issues, though, are present in Morrowind, but something about Morrowind's, I don't want to say jank, but it's like an old school classic style game. Something about it, it just works well for me. It feels right that the game operates that way. The game looks good. What's the game engine I'm using? It's called Love 2D. I don't think I can fight this boss right now. It's probably not going to be working, but I'll try. Oh, it is working. This is an old version, though, so it's not going to be very cool. Oh. Oh. Oh my gosh. And he gets really tired after biting. Oh, dang. I keep accidentally pausing. So I changed the pause button to be E at one point, and I don't like it. This was a long time ago. I think some people were telling me that the E button, the E key on your keyboard, is the inventory in some games. But I don't know, it feels very strange to me. I keep accidentally hitting it. I kind of want to take it out. Ah, dang it. Skyrim is the pinnacle of bad-coded but greatly designed game. The jankiness is what makes it fun. Yeah, and the thing is, I don't even know if I'd go so far to call it bad-coded, because there are bugs and there's jankiness to it, but I swear it is way less jank than most modern AAA games. I swear I play games from the past 5 years, and they are way buggier than Skyrim. Like, Skyrim is pinnacle, like, good code at this point. That's how bad AAA games have become. The thing is that your inventory is also the pause menu, which makes it a bit less sense to have it the E like other games. I think that since my game, it's not really an inventory. It's more of just a pause menu that you can look at your stuff. Kind of. We'll see. I remember why we changed. Yeah, I think that we were comparing it to like Minecraft, where you can open up your inventory, or when it's a game where inventory management needs to happen very quickly, or you're opening it up all the time. It does make sense to put it on a key like E, because you're constantly opening up this menu all the time. In my game, that's not the intention. I don't think that you'll need to open up this menu very often at all. Probably not at all, period. What game engine do I use? It's called Love 2D. I like how the tiles feel wet without drawing extra frames. Yeah, I agree, it is cool. It's thanks to the rain particles falling from the sky. I'm gonna try beating this guy again. Favorite place to buy assets is itch.io. I use itch.io for buying most of my assets, and I really, really love that site. Personally, I don't trust when a game is called AAA. Apparently, Skull and Bones was quadruple A. I know. That's a pretty big joke, isn't it? E is for interaction in most games. Like, I don't even know at this point. People have their own definition. I think games are so... There's so much variety in games that I don't even know what most games even means, because there's such a distinction between multiplayer games and single-player games that, like, sometimes people tell me that they're big gamers and then they only play multiplayer games, and that's completely true. But also, I consider myself a big gamer and I don't play multiplayer games, so I can't talk about video games with these people because I don't play the same type of games as them. And it's the same with, like, E is interact for most games. I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever seen a game that used E as interact, but I believe you that most of the games that you play do use it for interact. It's just that the games, there's so many different varieties and so many different genres that it's hard to know what's really standard anymore. How do you handle how do you handle draw order for the entities and the player? I'll show that in a second. Can you make it so people can change the key bindings? Yeah, you can already change the key bindings. In fact, I can do that right now if I wanted to. You can edit key bindings right here and change them all. Oh! Hey! Okay. This still looks really strange when he dies, but... So my favorite story in a game... That's such a hard question to answer. Favorite story? I don't really know. I really like Final Fantasy VII's story, and I just finished playing Final Fantasy 16, and I really like that game's story. I wouldn't call that like the best story ever. I don't know. I don't know what my favorite story in a game would be, because story isn't the part that I really care about anymore. When I was in college, that was my favorite part. When I was in college, I played JRPGs, and I cared a lot about narrative and storytelling and the writing, and I got so into all those types of games. But these days, that's not the part that I care about. I care more about the mechanics and the gameplay. But when a story is still good, I notice it, and I do love it a lot. I think my answers is it's normally going to come down to like mostly the Japanese games, because I like the anime stories. I think they're fun. So Final Fantasy is probably going to be my answer to that. How do I make moving so smoothly? Oh, I was going to talk about the draw order. So the moving so smoothly is from using physics to move everything around. Like there's deceleration and acceleration. So the draw order, I have this sprite manager. So this sprite manager has this sprites table, and every single frame, it's going to iterate through every single tree, every single wall, every spike, chest, every loot, every NPC, every enemy, every mob, every projectile. Everything in the game gets iterated through, and it gets added to the sprites list. And you can see I also add a Y position. Basically, we get the Y position of every single one of these objects, and that indicates how far up the screen it is. And things that are higher up on the screen are drawn first. Things lower down on the screen get drawn later. And that is seen down here. This line here, it sorts that list of sprites in order from like top to bottom, and then it draws everything in that order. And it does that calculation every single frame. So every frame it knows if I'm in front of this rock or if I'm behind this rock. Every frame it checks to know which one should be drawn first. What do I mean it draws after and later? I'll show you. I have a very, very, very good video on my channel that demonstrates this perfectly. Okay. So let's turn the music down. So this is what it means by draw order. So everything is like a blank canvas, where you start by drawing the background, and then you draw the player, and then you draw the tree. But the order that you draw things is important. Like you can draw the tree and then the player. The player draws on top. Whatever is drawn last gets drawn on top. That's what I mean by draw order. The background gets drawn first, then the tree, and then the player. Or alternatively, you know, the background gets drawn first, and then the player, and then the tree. It's just that's what it means by draw order, is that's what determines what gets drawn over top of everything. And that's why this calculation needs to happen every frame, because you never know what's in front. Am I in front now? But now I'm behind it. So sometimes this rock gets drawn first, and sometimes it gets drawn, well, in this case, now it's being drawn first, and the player's drawn on top of it. And then now it's the other way around. The player gets drawn first, and the rock gets drawn on top. Do I recommend Love 2D or Mono Game? They're both fine. I personally use Love 2D just because I like it more. So I would say try them both out and use the one that you prefer, because they can both make good games. Some games make them highlighted when behind. Well, even in those cases, the draw order still matters, because, like in this video, the draw order needs to change. So look, the player's behind the tree, and then the player's in front of the tree. And then I show it looking broken. This is what it looks like when it's broken. Look, the player's like underneath the tree trunk. This is completely wrong. The draw order still needs to change depending on what the position of these objects are. Even if I added highlighting to show that the player was behind the tree, that still doesn't fix this issue here, where the player's being drawn underneath the tree trunk. So there's a lot of things to consider. What is the map? I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, you're asking about the map editor? The map editor is tiled. So I use a software called Tiled to draw all these maps. What if it was building in Tiled? Do you have any way of getting the coordinates of tiles from Tiled? I haven't had a need to do that yet, so... What if it was in Tiled? So, to answer your question, if something is in Tiled, and I need to consider its draw order, I could do what you're suggesting, but what I actually do is I spawn an object. So this object here, this is the save point. This is that sunflower. So if I warped town, you see the sunflower here. But in Tiled, it's just this little marker. You don't actually see the sunflower in Tiled. All I'm saying is that there's this point here, and when the game renders this map, it's going to spawn a sunflower at this exact position. And that's how we see it in the game. But in Tiled, we don't see the sunflower. The game itself is what's calculating the draw order, though, so that's why I can still go around it and stuff like that. Now, let's say that, like this gate. Right now, I can only stand on this side of the gate, so there's no reason for me to worry about the draw order. If the player was able to be standing on this other side of the gate, where the gate would be covering up the player, I would need to make some very big changes, because right now this gate is just on a tile layer. I think it's on the objects tile layer? Yeah, it's on this objects tile layer. And this does not be this tile layer, none of the tile layers currently get adjusted based on the player's position. So I would need to come up with a whole new system to display this gate in the appropriate way. And honestly, I probably just wouldn't use tiled for this. I would probably change it to something how I did the save point, where you wouldn't see the gate at all in tiled. I would just have some kind of marker in here that says to spawn a gate at this exact position, and then the game engine itself is what handles the draw order. What if I store the tiles in grid table, render them first? Yeah, sure. Something like that is what I do. And, sorry, I do what you're describing. I do what you're describing. Check it out. This house right here. This is entirely rendered using tile layers. There's no objects at all. But it still covers up the player. So this roof is a tile layer that covers up the player. And I have a tile layer in my game right here called top. And these tile layers that I named top, these get drawn over top of everything. So, since I want this roof to be drawn over top of everything, including the player, that's why I put all of these tiles into the top tile layer. And then in my code, if I go to draw, we see that there are a few different places where I draw layers. Layers. So I have this function here that says draw map layers. Let's see where this function is defined. Yeah, draw map layers. So this has all the different map layers that I can have in my game and the exact order that they're drawn in. But we'll see that that top layer that I was just talking about, it's not in this function. It's in a different function called draw late layers. So top 2, 3, 4, all of these layers get drawn later. Draw late layers. So this is where we draw all of the, this is where we draw the player, the enemies, everything in the sprite manager gets drawn here. But then after all of that, that's when we draw the top layer. That's when we draw this roof. And since this roof is being drawn after everything else, that's why it covers up the player when I walk behind it. So I do use layer drawing order. It's just that the order doesn't change. The order is static. I do always draw the top layers here. It's just they never change. Like there's no point where I move this call to be up earlier in the program. That's all that I mean. Game state equals 2 should really be defined. Yeah, in fact, I don't use this game state equals 2 anymore. This was originally used when I probably wrote this line 3 years ago. I don't use game state equals 2 anymore, really. I originally planned it out where like game state 0 was the main menu, game state 1 was the intro scene, game state 2 was regular gameplay, game state 3 was the game over screen, and game state 4 was like the credits or something. I agree with you that a system like this is way too unclear, and I don't use this really anymore. It's more legacy code. I'm completely with you that I should change it. How do you guys deal with pressure, like the expectations people or future when something goes wrong? So are you working on a team? I mean, working on a team is really tough because I would say that the pressure of success in a team is part of what makes it work so well, because there's other people on the line. You have to do a good job in order to make things work for their sake. Like if you have any group projects at school, if one person doesn't pull their weight, it affects everyone. And that is kind of a motivator for that person not to screw up, because you don't want to let other people down. And how do you deal with the pressure? The only way to deal with the pressure is to get used to it. It's to do it all the time. School projects is a great way to ease myself into it. And then I had like my college projects. And then when you're actually on the job getting paid to do it, you have multiple motivations to get this stuff done. So you have the social pressure, you have the monetary pressure, you have like, you're worried about your boss is getting mad at you. There's all kinds of things that you want to do like at work. And that kind of assuages the pressure a little bit because you have lots of motivators. How do I keep doing the development? Do I have burnouts? I do definitely have burnouts. I go through phases where I just can't work on it at the moment. Especially like when I spend the whole day thinking about something and I'm working on something, I really do get to the point where it's like I can't think anymore. I've been working on this game for the whole day and my brain is so tired that I just need to stop. And there are times where it lasts like the whole week or the whole weekend. I've had times where I'm so burnt out on coding where I just stop working on coding completely and I go work on pixel art instead. That is the nice thing about game development, is that if you ever get burnt out on something, you can go work on something else. Game development is a combination of coding, of art, of sound design, of writing. You know, if you get burnt out on doing your artwork, then go work on the code for a little bit, or work on some level design, or write some of the dialogue. There's all kinds of things I can work on if I'm feeling burnt out on something specific. How I animated the fire pit. So that came from a paid asset, but I can show it. Where would this be? One second, I can't find where I have that sprite for the fire pit. Fire pit. It's in effects. I put it in effects? That's the worst spot for it. I would have never found it. Okay, so the way the fire pit works, there's a few things. Looks like. I have this. This is like the baseline image. You can see, that's the surrounding rocks. And then on top of it, I just have the fire effect going. And looks like it's this one, fire main. Yeah. So I just have this sprite sheet of this fire effect. It looks like it's 5 frames. And it just cycles through these frames constantly. So that fire pit in the game really is just... It's rendering this big stone circle, and then it's rendering that fire animation on top of it. And then it's also, you can see these smoke particles coming up a little bit. It's really subtle, but I have like these smoke circles coming up and expanding and fading out. Am I done with the mob thing? I mean, kind of. I was working on making it so the mob could be interrupted from its attack, and it still has cooldowns. So I did a lot of good updates on it today, but I think that I need to like really focus, and I can't really focus on stream when I'm doing this sort of stuff. Still learning. I mean, it takes a lot of time to learn, and really, my advice isn't to learn. I never really advise people just to study or watch videos. That doesn't help too much with learning. The only way to learn is just to do things. If you want to learn pixel art, you just have to make sprites all the time. Make a bunch of sprites, and they're going to be crappy. You can't really wait for someone to teach you how to do something, because no one taught me how to do pixel art. I just made a bunch of sprites, and then over time, I noticed that my sprites were getting a little bit better. I love the little details that most people don't notice. I love those too. Do I work on other games or just this one? At the moment, it's just this one. Yeah, it's just this one at the moment. It's a lot to balance multiple game projects at once. I would consider doing like a one-off small short thing. One thing that I do want to do is eventually get back to fixing Necrozone. I would like to rework that, because Necrozone is like, I feel like that game is 75% of the way there. I released it kind of early, I think. I could have spent more time making it better. The flames look really similar to Zelda's forward special in Smash Bros. Ultimate. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I remember like her forward B. I love that. I can't remember exactly how it looks like in Ultimate. I remember how it looks like in like Melee. It's like a fireball and it explodes. I love that. That move's so satisfying. You've been misunderstood. Oh, I'm sorry about that. One thing I should check is I should see if they like. The mobs use different... Okay, they're actually hurting each other now. Kind of. It's really situational. My issue is usually with the coding rather than the art. Yeah, I mean, everyone's gonna have something that they are a little bit less off with. Like, with it, for me, it's art. I really am not an artist, but I spent so much time working on pixel art that over time I've gotten better at it. So even though I still don't consider myself an artist, I do think I'm good enough to hold my own. And that should be everyone's goal with like coding too, is that even if you're not good at coding, it takes a long time. You just have to practice with it a lot. I'm the funny pixel art guy. Oh, I did misunderstand. Whoops. I guess I am the funny pixel art guy. Will you make the dashing a bit heavy after rolling? The players will only use that mechanic as to dodge enemies and not to fast travel. So really, there's a few ways that I can think about it with the rolling. Because the rolling could be like how it is in Zelda. In Ocarina of Time, you can roll, and you move slightly faster by rolling compared to just walking. But in Ocarina of Time, it's actually faster to walk backwards. If you walk backwards, you walk faster than if you're rolling. And then if you side hop, it's even faster than that. So I think it's cool to have multiple different ways to move that each have their own benefits, because the benefit of walking normally is that you have a lot of control with how you're moving and you're not like locked into an animation. But the benefit of rolling is that you're invincible and it's slightly faster. But then for my game, I have the wave dashing. So you can wave dash, which removes your invincibility. But you can get... my timing's not perfect with it. That's the wave dash like that. It's really hard to get the time. I'm not doing very good with it. There we go. Whenever you can see the sword go vertical like this. That's currently the fastest way to move in the game. Like this, but it's really hard. Bomb slide? Oh, cool. I actually don't remember bomb sliding. A side hop would look so interesting in this game. That would be hard to implement. I don't even know how I would do that. I think that the wave dash is a pretty cool way. So that's what I mean is that, like, I think that casual players will just walk around normally, and people who want to move a little bit faster will spam the roll like this, and then people who are speedrunning will wave dash like this. You finally decided to try to create a video game. Cool. I'm pretty bad at everything design. You're a web developer. What should you advise? My advice is always to start small. It sounds like you have a cool game idea, but starting with a cool, difficult, complicated game idea is a recipe for disaster. I really would recommend, like, saying I'm going to spend 3 months, 6 months learning, And to learn, I'm going to develop Pong. I'm going to develop Space Invaders. It's going to be really boring and easy, but even an easy game is hard to make. It's really hard to make a simple game like Space Invaders. It is not easy. So if you're new, I would say put your idea on hold just for a little bit until you can just get the fundamentals in place. I really worry that a lot of people jump straight into complicated projects, kind of like mine. Like let's say that the game you wanted to make was like mine. This is too complicated of a game for a newcomer to make. It really is a lot of stuff going on here. Compared that to like Pong, Pong is much simpler. I really do think that you should start with something easy just to get started, and then move on to your cool game idea, because it'll just be way easier doing that as opposed to like starting off with something hard. Your favorite game, Zelda game is Minish Cap. Almost no one I know talks about it or knows it exists. Oh, well, I definitely know it exists. I think I showed a clip of it in my, in one of my shorts. But I love Minish Cap. I love Minish Cap because the art style, I think, is some of the most impressive pixel art of any game ever. There's so few pixel art games, because like that was the end of the era, right? Game Boy Advance was basically the last console I can think of that used pixel art. There's some exceptions, obviously. So Game Boy Advance games look really, really nice, and Minish Cap, I love the cartoony art style. All the sprites are so detailed and nice. It really, really looks good. I love that game a lot. I've tried Fast, Unity, and Unreal, but Unity's best, right? There's no right answer. You can use whatever one you want. I'm not using Unity right now. I'm using something called Love2D. There's lots of options, though. There's Godot, there's Unreal, Unity, Love2D, there's Monogame, there's GameMaker. GameMaker's a really good one for newcomers. Scratch. I'm sure there's plenty of other ones, too. Can I recommend you combat games? I've never played Celeste, though. I like platformer games. Well, combat games. So, the 3D combat games, the best ones are like the Dark Souls or Elden Rings. But if we're talking about 2D combat games, there really aren't too many. I would say Hyper Light Drifter is a good one. I like Cult of Lamb. I think that game has really fun combat. Let's see, what else would I say? Hades. I think Hades is top tier 2D combat. So I'd say that those are my off the top of my head recommendations. Oh wait, it's FPS. Do I have a plan to have monsters that have complex fight strategies and algorithms? Yeah, I would say so, because the way I have this code set up, mob mind, is all the decision making goes into this evaluate function, and I can make this function as simple for certain enemies or as complicated for certain enemies as I want. I could make enemies that have a lot of thought process that goes into each of their decisions, or I could have really simple enemies like the slimes that have very few thought processes that go into it. And the way I have this organized is just so nice. I really am happy that I took the time to rewrite this mob code, because moving forward, it's going to be so much more organized and so much better for making content. Have I played Crosscode? That's my favorite 2D combat for sure. That's so funny you mentioned Crosscode, because my editor was just telling me about it. That really is a funny coincidence. I have not played it, but I've heard really, really good things, and I watched the trailer for it just last week, actually, and it looks awesome. Am I using HTML to make my game? No, I'm using Lua. What game genre do I think is the least liked kind, even though it's actually good to me? Underrated kind of games. Underrated type of games. I will say... That's a hard question to answer. Underrated is tough. I'll say monster catching games. I like monster catching games like Pokemon, and I wish there were more of them. But none of them have really hit me the same way that Pokemon has. And like I backed Temtem on Kickstarter like 6 years ago, and I really liked the style of that game, but it just didn't pan out the way I was hoping it would. But, oh, and then there was, like, Monster Sanctuary was another one that I played. And, again, that one was really cool, but nothing is landing quite right. And I'd even go so far as to say Pokemon isn't landing quite right. Game Freak games aren't really very impressive recently. I'm hoping that the new Pokemon game will be fun, but I'll say that underrated would be monster catching games or like team building sort of stuff. You just play it with your friend. Awesome, cool. What do you think is the most important UI feature in the game? In a game, really, my main goal with UI is making it understated and not invasive. I see a lot of games with UIs that kind of show you text everywhere, and it's too much. I'm all about UIs that are super, super simple. And even when I was at Microsoft, I would say that was something I was mindful of, is that there's a lot of push to add more and more things. You think that more is better. But I've always been of the mindset that simplicity is better. That keeping things really light and simple and minimalist tends to go a lot farther than having every feature that you can think of. Because when you have too much stuff, it becomes overwhelming and it becomes too annoying to like grasp or learn. And that was one of my complaints with just generally a lot of things that I work on, where if I see things are becoming too complex, I take a step back and think, okay, is every part of this really truly necessary? Is there something that we can tone things back or slice things out just to make it more digestible? And I did that with this game, actually, because in the Steam demo that's currently available, there's an attack button, there's a dodge button, and then there's a pickup button. There's a separate button specifically for picking up weapons. And I've taken that button out because 3 buttons is 50% more complicated than 2 buttons. And if I can make the game work with just 2 buttons, that means that the game is less complicated, and as long as it's still just as fun as when there was 3 buttons, objectively that's a better experience, in my opinion. You know, objectively is kind of a strong word for me to use, but I just feel like simplicity is a big factor in making good experiences. Wait, I worked at Microsoft? Yeah, I worked at Microsoft for 5 years. Make a log dog from Stars Align. I'm not familiar with that. How much simplicity is not too simple and not too understandable? Well, that's the golden question, isn't it? There's no way to really know the answer to that. There's no way to quantify it either. You just kind of have to eyeball it. And everyone's going to have different opinions on that. Because some people would say that my game is too simple. How, like, there's no damage numbers. Like, the attacks either do 1 damage or they do 2 damage. That's it. That's simple. How there's only, I don't know, this number of weapons so far. Like, that's pretty simple. You could argue that I could make it so that there's tons of weapons. What I was originally planning to do with this game is have procedural dungeons and procedural weapons, because like this greatsword, for example, it would be very easy for me to take this greatsword and change the color of it to like gold and make a gold sword, and now I have a different sword. I can change its stats. I can make it faster. I can make it so that it has an extra combo. I can make it so that it does more damage. But at the end of the day, it's still the same sword. It's just a different color and it has slightly different properties. Is that extra complexity of added weapons better for the game? In some games, yes. In some games it is, because if there's a lot of content to go through, where having a huge variety of stuff to use is validated, then that makes sense. But when the game is small and compact, I think it makes sense to have a small and compact number of weapons too. And some people are going to disagree with me on that. Some people are going to say that my system is too simple. And in their eyes, they're right. But it's my game, and I'm going to do what I think is best. Weapons like workbench. Something like that would be cool, but maybe in like a post-game setting or something. I don't know if I want to commit to something like that right off the bat. Customizable UI would be the best option. Maybe. The thing is, when you add a customizable UI, that means people are going to spend time in that UI. And do I want people to spend time looking at a UI? Or do I want them to spend time playing the game? I want players to have as much fun as possible. And typically, being in a pause menu, messing with stuff, is not the fun part of the game. Sometimes it is. There are times in RPGs where customizing your build out is the fun part, but I don't want to encourage players to stay in a menu for too long. I can encourage them to not be in a menu. So I agree with you that a menu could fix the problem, but it could also introduce other problems that you might not anticipate. It changes the flow of the game when you add a pause menu that stops the flow. Like, if I'm in the middle of combat and you pause the game, is that good that you can pause the game and stop the flow of the game right then and there? It's debatable. And it took me a long time to kind of accept that you should be able to pause the game in the middle of combat. There's a lot of thought that goes into this. And really the only way to know if a thought is good or not is to test it, is to implement it and see if it's good. So the question of, is something too simple? The only way to really know is if you try it out. If it's fun, then it's not too simple. Elemental weapon infusion. I started that. I had a video where I showed the greatsword getting infused with fire, and then it would burn enemies, and I think that's pretty cool. Berserk is one of the best things ever created, and Guts only has 2 weapons in 1 different state. Yeah, I agree. As long as the weapons are tight and good, there doesn't need to be a huge variety. There are times when variety helps, and it does add to the game, especially in RPGs where there's just where the variety is kind of the selling point. I wouldn't say that variety is the selling point of this game. I would say that the mechanics and the tightness of the combat and how well designed everything is, that's the appeal. And on that note, I think I'm going to end stream for today. We've been streaming for 2 hours, and it was a very successful one. Thank you so much for being here today. It was a great stream. A lot of folks in here today. We got Mario, BSSMDE, Junkie Boy, Star BX1, Fitz, Whoops, or Whoopa. Thank you so much for being here. I will be back next week for yet another Moonshire Monday, and I will see you all then. Oh, you just joined? I'm sorry. But yeah, we're past time. I get tired after about 2 hours, and I'm ready to call it quits. Have a good one. Thank you so much. I will be back next week. Bye, everyone.